You join me in a very special car. This is an MX5 Mark 1 RS Limited. They made about 500 of these, and some would say this is the most hardcore of the limited edition MX5s that they did. It's got quite a few hidden extra features in terms of stuff that you can't see. It's got a lightened flywheel, limited slip diff as standard, slightly shorter gear ratios, and then of course it's got these amazing Recaro bucket seats, which were made specifically for this car and for the RX-7, so there are only 1,000 sets of these seats left. Hence, they sell for quite a lot of money just for the seats by themselves. This car has all of the chassis bracing and strengthening that they did in the later Mark 1s. It's a 1.8, I believe it's about 130 horsepower, but it really has to be one of the best cars to drive on small British country roads like this. It's plenty fast enough whenever you're on it. It's got a reasonably nice exhaust note. This one has a Mazda speed exhaust on it, which I think was a factory option. And it really is the best MX-5. I've driven quite a few MX-5s, and this one by far is the most fun to drive, especially with the lightened flywheel. Really makes changing gears and stuff a lot of fun. This one's pretty standard. It does have Mysera coil suspension on it. The original Bilsteins were long past their best, and I think the previous owner decided this was the best thing to put on them rather than trying to get some OEM suspension. I've used these on the race car, and they really have quite a nice ride for a coilover, especially if you run them with relatively soft springs, which is how this car's set up. Short gearbox really is a joy. As everybody knows, the MX-5 has probably one of the best manual gear shifts of any car. So sometimes we're just changing gear for the fun of it. Gearing's relatively short, but there's not a lot of power on offer, so it really is fun because you get to use their gearbox a lot. You get to enjoy the performance of the car even on roads like this where we're doing 50 odd mile an hour behind a modern Golf in front of us. I mean, it's not super fast, but you can certainly use all the performance. Very few cars that drive like an MX-5. Everyone's said it before, but light cars really do drive different. These are sub 1 ton, and you can really feel how it changes direction going into corners. Even some of the other cars that we've got at Wheelman that are relatively light, sort of 1,100, 1,200 kilos, this feels even quicker to change direction. It really is quite an exciting thing to drive on these little roads. The ride is very good. It's double wishbone suspension all round because race car. It keeps its camber as it moves through its travel, and it's much more controlled maybe than some of the McPherson setups. I think the only thing that's really a disappointment about this car is the engine. It's a little bit flat. It doesn't really want to rev quite as much as the Hondas, but then the Hondas do set a bit of a benchmark whenever it comes to exciting cars or exciting engines. Creature comforts, well, this car's actually got air conditioning, which I'm not sure if it was an option whether it was all standard, but pretty much all of the Japanese cars come with air conditioning. One of the things that surprised me is it's actually got electric door mirrors. It's the first MX-5 that I've had that. Most of them were manually operated, and the ball joints that they sat on usually seize, and then the mirrors snap off. So it's nice to have a set of mirrors that actually work. It did also come with quite an interesting stereo, although the head unit is aftermarket. The speakers are standard, and I believe were an upgrade in the Japanese market over what the other MX-5s had. They don't have a lot of bass, you can't really hear them whenever you're driving along, but I guess it's a nice thing to have. The Nardi steering wheel and gear knob were standard on this edition. Quite unusual to see these. A lot of the imports have had aftermarket steering wheels, and this one's actually in really nice condition, considering this car's done 208,000 kilometres, so it's been very well looked after, but certainly hasn't been a garage queen. It's had a fair bit of mileage put under its tiny little 15-inch wheels. When the car was purchased about 2 years ago, it actually still had the original tyres that had come from Japan. It had a set of Yokohamas from 2012. So the 2 UK owners that had it before us clearly didn't put too many miles on it and definitely didn't drive it too hard, which is a shame because it really is a great car to thrash along. No ABS, no traction control. I think this has aftermarket brake pads. Not sure what brand they are, but it stops quite nicely. Such a fun car to drive.